7 publications distributed in more than 13 million copies, 44 books totaling over 550,000 copies, as well as hundreds of thousands of souls caught up in the spiritual rebirth movement known as the Lord's Army, are just a few references to the impressive activities carried out by priest Iosif Trifa between the years 1922 and 1938. With a population of 15 million Romanian citizens during that time, his activity remains the most widespread missionary work in Romanian Orthodoxy. Iosif Trifa came into the world on March 3, 1888, in the village of Certege in the Apusen Mountains. His mother, a profound believer, inspired him to have faith in God at an early age. Following 4 years of high school in Beiuș, Iosif Trifa enters the Theological Pedagogic Institute in Sibiu. After graduating, at the age of 23, he marries Iuliana Iancu, a niece of national hero Avram Iancu. He is ordained as priest in Vidul de Sus. Here, 4 children are born to him, of which only one, Gheorghe Titus, will survive. After just 7 years of marriage, both his wife and their last daughter, Augustina, pass into eternity. This pain draws him even closer to God. He begins to write intensely for a multitude of magazines and newspapers, unfolding a vast publishing activity in the following 3 years. He collaborates regularly with a myriad of periodicals within the country and even across the borders, with numerous writings full of truth, power, and inspiration. In 1920, at Arad, he prints his first book, Toward Canaan. 1 year later, he is offered the job of spiritual advisor at the Theological Academy in Sibiu. Beginning in January 1922, the church in Sibiu decides to print a religious gazette named The Light of the Villages. Father Trifa is named as the editor, and from the very first number begins to work and battle for the salvation of the Romanian people. Although the job of editor was completely new to him, Father Trifa took upon himself all the exhausting tasks that came with it: receiving letters, assuring necessary material, page arrangement, supervising corrections and pagination, expediting concerns, responding to the readers as well as the paper's timely appearance from week to week. On New Year's Eve 1923, dissatisfied with the lack of fruit from his labors and under the inspiration of the Holy Spirit, he publishes a commitment, calling people to abandon sin and turn to God. In a few years, a growing number of people hear the call and resolve to begin a new life. Iosif Trifa names this spiritual renewal movement the Lord's Army. In 1929, he sells his house in the countryside and buys the Lord's Army Publishing House. He organizes a bookstore for the army. Then in 1930, he founds the magazine entitled The Lord's Army and distributes it as a supplement to the Light of the Villages newspaper. Orthodox Church representatives from Sibiu begin to elaborate an official statute regarding the Lord's Army, through which they desire to reorganize the lay missionary volunteers born of God in the Romanian Orthodox Church through the work and sacrifice of Father Iosif Trifa. Father Trifa, on the other hand, was elaborating his own spiritual statutes for a spiritual movement with purely evangelical guidance and no human ideas added. He was fully convinced that only in this way would the Lord's Army fulfill its role in the Romanian Orthodox Church. order to diminish his activities, all kinds of restrictions are imposed upon Father Trifa. He is removed from his function as priest, and just as it is specified in the church section meeting at Sibiu on January 2nd, 1935, he is, quote, no longer responsible for all the duties he had in connection with the Lord's Army, religious movement within the bosom of our church, the same being true of his duties connected to the publications and periodicals. During the same year, 1935, Archbishop Nicolae Balan confiscates the Lord's Army magazine. Iosif Trifa responds by establishing another periodical, Jesus the Victor. He is subsequently judged by the Church for not submitting to the hierarchy. On May 9th, 1935, Father Iosif Trifa is defrocked. He makes an appeal to the Holy Council of the Romanian Orthodox Church, reaffirming his total submission to the Church's dogmas, but showing that he cannot stop obeying Jesus Christ and serving the Lord's Army volunteers. In April 1937, Father Trifa receives the Holy Council's official response, through which they maintain their decision to defrock him. Likewise, under the threat of being excommunicated, he is summoned to cease publishing Jesus the Victor. In January 1938, his print shop is confiscated as well. Sick and impoverished, Father Trifa continues his battle and ministry in a dramatic way until the night of February 12, 1938, when his soul passes on to its heavenly resting place. He is accompanied on his final journey by thousands of believers from the Lord's Army and friends from within the country and across the borders. Year after year, in the month of February, brothers and sisters from the Lord's Army come to the burial place of Father Iosif Trifa in Sibiu to bring him a flower, to pray, and to thank God. Around the grave there were sermons, prayers, songs, and poems. The presence of many youth was a sign that Father Trifa, although departed from this world, is still recognized as a spiritual father by many new souls in the Orthodox Church. Through Iosif Trifa, the most valuable concerns of early Christianity were re-emphasized. Christ, the new birth, and the Bible became the foundations of a life changed and surrendered to God. As a result, lay people in the Romanian Orthodox Church began to read and preach the Bible in church and in public. Father Iosif Trifa's awareness of the acute need to sing a new song to the glory of God led him to encourage and support the birth of Christian poetry and religious hymns among the Romanian people. The Lord's Army movement included all levels of Romanian society: peasants, intellectuals, children, youth, women, and men enrolled in the battle against sin and the scourges besetting the nation: alcohol, tobacco, illiteracy, poverty, and dangerous political extremism. Through this renewal of Romanian Orthodoxy, spiritual reconciliation was achieved between Christians of different confessions, as thousands of Greek Catholic believers entered into the Lord's Army. Through Father Trifa, a specifically Romanian evangelical ministry for the Romanian people was born, but with an ecumenical character based strictly on the gospel of Jesus Christ. The Lord's Army has gone way beyond its own borders, being present in Serbia, Hungary, Ukraine, Republic of Moldova, Spain, Italy, England, and even America.